So this is still the week of the Patreon listener question blitz. We're going to jump into yet again another Transformer Slag podcast Patreon listener question. And we got a really good one here from Space Ghostal, one of our Primus tier members. Once again, thank you, Space Ghostal, for being part of the Transformer Slag Patreon. If you want to be like Space Ghostal and join the Patreon, help support the podcast, let us know we're doing a half-decent job here informing the Transformer community and letting everyone know what's going on in the Transformer world on a daily basis. Patreon.com/Protoman, or check the pinned comment or the description below. What does the Patreon get you? It gets you your name in the end credit scrolls at the end of every segment moving forward. Gets you the chance to join the Transformer Slag Podcast Discord, where we share the deals that are going on in the Transformer world. We have rare lore downloads, news breaks there, great conversations, cool crew of people. We also have the Patreon listener question if you're at a certain tier. And we got this Patreon question from Space Ghostal, and he wants to know, Dear Proto-Renaissance Man, I am thinking of getting into 3D printing. How do you think these printers have changed the hobby? What do you think this means for our hobby in the future? Keep up the great work. Space Ghostal. Thank you for the kind words. And that's a great thing, too, because in our Discord, we have two people that are really, really talented with 3D printing. And if you have a lot of questions about 3D printing, those are two people there to come down and have deep discussions about really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. Shout out to Chris and Mikey. Both of them very good, talented people in that 3D printing world. And Louie, too. Now, when it comes to 3D printing, you know what? There's a funny history with that, especially when it comes to the Transformer hobby and 3D printing. Because this was something that happened, and it's funny because no one talks about it because it came and went so fast. And unless you were at, like, HasCon, you really knew what was going on. Which was, in mid-2014, Hasbro talked about to their investors and their stock people about getting into the 3D printing world. And I think it was like July 2014 or like August, they announced that they had this huge partnership with Shapewaves, and they were going to be doing this thing where, you know, fans could submit their original creations or their licensed Transformers or My Little Pony or G.I. Joe or whatever creations, and Hasbro will give them a temporary license, and it'll be featured on their 3D printing Hasbro website, and you could sell it and get a piece of the profit. There was this huge initiative that they were working on. It was called the superfanart.com, which was sponsored by Hasbro. And the sad thing is, if you go to superfanart.com right now, it forwards you straight to the Hasbro toy shop. So if you stop the video and want to check that out, just to let you know in advance. So there was this huge push. And then, like, on the Hasbro investors website, they, like, announced it publicly, you know, we're going to be partnering with Shapewaves, and we're going to be doing this huge future 3D printing initiative and all of that kind of stuff. And I think it was primarily spawned because of the My Little Pony community, because they had a lot of unique characters, and Shapewaves already had all these people making these little My Little Pony figures, which a lot of those small little 2-inch My Little Pony figures, they're one molded piece of plastic. So in the Shapewaves community, people were just making those characters. And obviously Hasbro wanted a piece of that action. And I know that not long after this investor announcement happened, one of the legal people from Hasbro talked about it too, and they were saying, like, you know, the formed partnership with Shapewaves is mostly, you know, to prevent, like, you know, C&Ds, you know, cease and desists and stuff like that, and for Hasbro to have a good relationship with the community and the G.I. Joe community and the Scrabble community and the My Little Pony community and all of that, you know, all the legal jargon. And apparently it was a thing. And I remember going to HasCon, and if you went to the Marvel section, there was a little subsection dedicated to talking about it. No one talked about it, though, publicly in the fandoms, but it was a thing going on for a period of time. And I believe up to 12 or 13 designs got approved. And these were all My Little Pony related because they were starting with My Little Pony, but 12 or 13 designs were approved. and going to be featured on this superfanart.com Hasbro Shapewave partnership website. And everything was going fine. Everything was going dandy. And then, literally maybe a year and a half into it, one of the community managers of Shapewave just came forward and said, yep, we're done. Partnership's off. Everything's done. We're closing doors, and that is that. Anyone who was approved for their designs, they will be compensated by Hasbro. Everything else, sorry for your time, sorry to have wasted your time, and that was that. And it was just this weird thing. And it kind of just happened under the radar, and no one talked about it, primarily in the Transformer world, because we didn't get to that point yet. But it was going to be something that was going to be part of our world too. And Hasbro had yet to, since then, and I believe it was like July 2015 or something, or 2016, they'd yet to do a public statement afterwards of why that all kind of came crashing down. I have my opinions, but they're just my opinions of what I think happened. But it was something that came and went because Hasbro was like, hey, let's get into the 3D printing thing. And then I think it dawned on them, man, I think we're giving away too much of our intellectual property that we could be doing ourselves. And it kind of just shifted in another direction, I guess. I mean, people probably have their own theories. I'm not a super expert in 3D printing, like let's say some of the people in my Discord and stuff, but I do understand the business side of it and the legal side of it, and I think that that's probably what really shook things up. And again, if you try to go to superfanart.com now, there's no evidence that this stuff even existed. It just forwards you to Hasbro Toy Shop. So it is something interesting. And I feel that, I look at 3D printing like how I look at the CD burning world, which is, back in like 1994, 1995, the CD burner started to become a thing showing up in the towers of computers, desktop computers. And the second it became a standard thing where before you know it, like what computer that was sold after the year 2000 didn't have one in there, every single person had the ability to make their own CDs, whether it be musical, whether it be copying content. It opened the door to that. So all of a sudden, an up-and-coming artist, they could make their own music CDs and literally print a cover and everything and sell them independently without having to go to a label. And on the flip side of that, if you were someone who was making video games, someone could easily copy your game and distribute it illegally. And of course, anyone who was in the PlayStation world, with the mod chips and stuff like that during the late 90s, early 2000s, it was all created and kind of messed up a little bit because of the burner coming to market. Now, 3D printing is a lot more complicated than that of simply just putting a blank disc that you buy from Future Shop or Best Buy or whatever into your computer and then just, clicking a button and just having it copied. There's a little more creativity and all that kind of stuff and purchasing. And it's a bigger, I guess, it's a bigger starting point in a lot of ways too, to have that kind of stuff and the patience of it, because it takes a while to 3D print things. But it will at one point get simplified. The process is not as quick as the CD burner was, where, let's say 2007, it started to show up on a more common basis. By 1997, it started to show up on a common basis. By 2007, we were almost already retiring from the desktop computer to tablets and laptops and stuff. So, that technology moved very quickly and kind of got phased out. Who buys Blu-rays and CDs anymore? But the 3D printing world, it's been a slower burn. And I feel that we're not at that point yet where we're at the replicator point where someone could just, take apart a toy, put it into some kind of, field of vision, and it just copies everything, and then you can reassemble it with the 3D printed stuff in the colors and everything, and not have mold flask and not have the roughness of 3D printing and all that kind of stuff, and print it in color and the simplicity of copying those colors. Like, we haven't reached that point yet, but I do feel at some point we will. And when that day comes, it is going to shake up the game. And I think Hasbro, when they did this super fan art thing, I think it was them trying to get their foot in the door with 3D printing because they knew at some point this is going to be an issue. And I'm pretty sure, this isn't a public thing, but I'm pretty sure they probably still are looking at it constantly. This was just them dipping their toe in the water. They felt the water was too hot, so they stuck their toe out. They said, you know what, I'm going to come back when this thing cools down. And it isn't at that moment yet. It hasn't cooled down yet, and they don't want to really get involved again. But I get a feeling it will be a thing in the future when money is involved, because that's what it is at the end of the day. It's going to be a money thing more than anything else. It's going to be protecting their licenses, protecting their investors who buy the stocks, the Hasbro stocks, and protecting their money, you know? And it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because I see a lot of really talented stuff by a lot of super, super talented people being made constantly every day. And it's just only a matter of time that when 3D printing really starts to get that, you know, professional final look, that there's going to be people that are going to be rocking it, just absolutely destroying it. There is some, I mean, I go to a gaming store for my Magic the Gathering stuff, and they have a partnership with this 3D printing company that makes those little tabletop, I guess you could call it like D&D figures and stuff like that, and Warhammer, and they make customs of it. And the website is incredible. Like, you could literally, there's like a million different parts and pieces, and you customize your character on the website, and then they print it out for you and ship it out to you. And it's such a streamlined kind of thing. And I'm looking at that being done, that I'm just going like, man, one day it's going to be like that for Transformers, where they're just going to customize the hell out of something. Oh, I want it to turn into this and do this and that and that. And I want it to be a red jet that has this and with this gun and da-da-da. And then Hasbro's going to 3D print it up, put it all together, and send it to you. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? That booth at HasCon was interesting, and it was only just related to Marvel, and it was part of that Marvel section. And so many people glazed over it at HasCon, but it gave us a little peek at what they're planning for the future. And there is something coming. We just don't know what that is, but it's definitely going to shake things up in a big way. And I hope that kind of answers your question, Space Ghostal, and gave that little bit of a history lesson that people aren't really aware of that existed, because it was such a small pocket of time. But Hasbro's planning something. The seeds are there, just nothing has grown out of it yet. But something will come out of it, and it's going to be a big change. It will be, because you can't stop creativity, but at the same time, companies are going to always watch their back and protect their intellectual properties. So we will see what happens with that. And I can't even talk about the third-party world and the 3D printing that comes from that, and the millions of dollars of custom-made weapons and little accessories and everything. That's a whole other animal, too. And that's stuff that I feel that's also what probably spurned Hasbro to get in on everything. But we shall see what happens. And that's more or less it. So if you want to be like Space Ghostal and ask a Patreon listener a question, or you just want to just come join the Patreon and support us and let us know that we're doing a pretty good job educating you guys on this stuff, keeping the community informed and the fandom informed on what's really going on. And check us out, patreon.com/protoman, or the pinned comment, or the description below. And rock out with the robots in disguise.